Look, in today's dating world, what you see is rarely what you're actually dealing with. The smiles, the attention, the sudden distance, it's not random, it's patterned. And most guys, they don't see the pattern until they're already emotionally invested. That's the trap. Because once emotions get involved, your ability to think clearly drops. And that's exactly when these psychological dynamics hit the hardest. So, if you really want to understand what's going on beneath the surface, you have to stop focusing on words and start paying attention to behavior. Not what she says, not what she promises, but what she consistently does. Because patterns don't lie, and once you learn to recognize them early, you stop reacting and you start seeing. So, let's break this down. Here are 7 dark psychological tricks women use on men that most guys never see coming. This one is subtle, but extremely powerful. She pulls you in with attention, warmth, and energy. Then suddenly, she withdraws. No warning, no explanation. One moment she's fully engaged, the next she's distant. And what that does is create uncertainty. That uncertainty pulls you deeper in, because now you're trying to figure out what changed. You start replaying conversations. You start questioning yourself. You start chasing clarity. But that's exactly the point. Because the inconsistency creates emotional spikes. And those spikes become addictive. You're not chasing her anymore. You're chasing the feeling. The way you counter this? You don't react to the shifts. You stay steady. When she pulls back, you don't lean forward. You maintain your pace. Because stability breaks the cycle. Silence isn't always passive. Sometimes it's deliberate. After tension or disagreement, instead of addressing it directly, she disappears. No replies, no communication. And what that does is force you into overthinking. You start wondering what you did. You start trying to fix something that hasn't even been clearly defined. That silence builds pressure. And most guys respond by chasing resolution. Apologizing too early. Or over-explaining. But here's the reality. Silence only has power if you react to it emotionally. If you stay grounded, if you continue your life without disruption, that pressure disappears. And when communication resumes, you address the issue directly, without emotional overinvestment, because clarity beats silence every time. This one looks genuine on the surface. She opens up, shares struggles, talks about stress, past experiences, or current challenges, and naturally, you step into a supportive role. That's normal. But here's where it shifts. When that vulnerability becomes consistent and starts pulling resources, time, or emotional energy from you without balance, now it's no longer connection, it's dependency. You begin to feel responsible for her well-being. And once that happens, your investment increases, even if the relationship itself hasn't earned it. The key here is awareness. You can support without overcommitting. You can listen without absorbing responsibility. Because a healthy dynamic builds mutual strength, not one-sided reliance. This one doesn't happen all at once. It builds over time. Small contradictions, minor denials, reframing past conversations, until eventually you start questioning your own perception. Did I misunderstand that? Am I overthinking? Maybe I remembered it wrong. That's the shift. Your confidence in your own reality starts to weaken. And once that happens, you become more dependent on her version of events. That's where control forms. The way you counter this is simple, but not easy. You trust your perception. If something feels inconsistent, you address it directly. And if clarity isn't possible, you don't stay in confusion, because prolonged confusion is never accidental. When something feels limited, it automatically feels more valuable. And this principle applies heavily in dating. Delayed responses, last-minute cancellations, unpredictable availability. It creates a sense that her time is rare and therefore worth chasing. But here's what most guys miss. Scarcity doesn't equal value. And when you start adjusting your behavior just to fit into her availability, you're already losing positioning. The move here is simple. You match energy, but you don't chase it. If she's inconsistent, you don't compensate for it. You maintain your own standards, because real value doesn't need to be artificially limited. At the beginning, everything feels effortless. She's easygoing, supportive, low pressure. But over time, things start to change. Expectations increase. Demands rise. The dynamic becomes heavier. And the reason most guys tolerate it is because they're trying to get back to how things used to feel. They're chasing the initial version of her, but that version was part of the setup, not necessarily the long-term reality. So instead of focusing on how things started, you focus on how things are now. If the current dynamic doesn't align with your standards, you address it. And if it doesn't improve, you move on. Because staying stuck in how it used to be keeps you blind to what it actually is. This one is constant and often overlooked. She introduces small challenges, disagreements, delays, minor provocations, and she watches how you respond. Do you get reactive? Do you become overly accommodating? Do you lose composure? These aren't random moments. They're data points, because your reactions tell her how much control she has in the dynamic. If you react emotionally, you lose leverage. If you stay composed, you maintain it. And over time, that consistency builds respect, not through words, but through behavior. At the end of the day, none of this is about seeing women as opponents. It's about understanding dynamics. Because once you understand the patterns, you stop getting pulled into cycles you don't control. You stop reacting emotionally to every shift, and you start moving with intention. The real advantage isn't manipulation. It's awareness. It's knowing who you are, what you tolerate, and what you walk away from. Because when you're grounded in that, none of these tactics have power over you. And that's where everything changes. Not in how they move, but in how you respond.